All right, welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. We're going to get started. All right, I'm going to share the screen. Welcome to the Soapboxx podcast. We need your help. We want you all to share this live feed all throughout your social media on your platforms. So at this time, we're going to play a nice little intro video to spotlight our candidates. And we're also going to pay tribute to the movement then, now, and forever.
I began my career as a public defender in this community 20 years ago, fighting for those who could not afford to pay for an attorney. And I have been fighting for justice ever since. My name is Monique Worrell, and I am running for state attorney in Orange-Osecola County. Our criminal legal system. I began my career as a public defender in this community 20 years ago, fighting for those who could not afford to pay for an attorney. And I have been fighting for justice ever since. My name is Monique Worrell, and I am running for state attorney in Orange-Osecola County. Our criminal legal system is fundamentally flawed, working on behalf of the rich and powerful and against everyone else. As a country, we incarcerate people at the highest rate in the world. And as the state of Florida, we incarcerate our citizens at a rate higher than the national average, failing to keep us safer. Having served as an assistant public defender, a law professor, and an assistant state attorney, I know that the only way to change the system is to change the culture of prosecution. We cannot continue to do the same thing and expect a different result. It's time for a fresh perspective on justice. Join me in the fight for justice at MoniqueForStateAttorney.com.
Now, for those that don't know, my name is Alton, Edmond, and I'm running for sheriff. Because it's time that we build a community policing model that reaches and touches all people. And not just the people with some money on this part of town or that part of town, but all people. And not just the people that are pro-Trump or pro-Ivy, but all people. Not just straight people, but all people. Not just white people, but all people. And it is time to bring accountability, civility, transparency to the Brevard County Police Office leadership. My name is Alton Edmond, and thank you for your time and for your support. God bless.
Hi, I'm Andrew Darling. I'm a proud Orlando native, Oak Ridge High School quarterback and track member, United States Army veteran, husband, and father to 2 amazing kids. I'm a successful small business owner and attorney. I also believe Black Lives Matter, which is why, of course, I've exercised my constitutional right to peacefully demonstrate for what I believe, and my law firm has successfully defended nearly 20 protesters who were arrested pro bono. I also believe that Orange County families and businesses deserve better than they've been getting under Sheriff Mina, which is why I'm incredibly proud to be the reform candidate for Orange County Sheriff. Being on the ballot doesn't mean I've given up my beliefs. I'm proud to speak out at every opportunity and tell Orange County voters that we need real criminal justice reform. And to do that, we have to stop electing institutionalized and Joe Lopez are part of the problem. They cannot be the solution. And our positive reform message is exciting voters and supporters in every county, in every corner of Orange County, which is why we are so proud to announce endorsements from the Working Families Party, the Rainbow Democrats, the Florida LGBTQ Democratic Caucus, civil rights activist and attorney Ben Crump, Orlando civil rights activist and attorney Natalie Jackson, the Democratic Haitian American Caucus of Florida, Progressives for Democracy in America. But for the most part, endorsements is yours. And that's why I'm hoping to earn your support, your prayers, and your vote for sheriff on Tuesday, August 18th. Early voting starts August 3rd and runs to August 16th. As our next sheriff, I'll bring real criminal justice reform to Orange County and make Orlando a place we can once again be proud to live, work, and raise our families.
My name is Melba Pearson, and I'm running to be the next state attorney for Miami-Dade County, Florida. I stand before you as a daughter of immigrants. I stand before you as someone who has experienced racism and done everything I could to lift up the voices of marginalized people and make sure that equality and justice is real for everyone. When I become state attorney, we will see a new day here in Miami-Dade County. We will see bail reform. We will see children being treated like children and not put in the adult system. We will see accountability for law enforcement. We will examine all cases to see what cases I can still bring forward. Because justice delayed is justice denied. And we're going to have radical transparency so that the people of Miami-Dade County know what their state attorney is doing and can hold me accountable accordingly. So all I ask of all of you is to, number one, register to vote. Number two, vote. Vote by mail, vote early, vote on election day. Because you know what? Liking a post on social media is not a vote. I need y'all in the booth. We have a chance for real change. So let's make this happen. Keep fighting for justice, keep fighting for change, and just know I'm always going to be your ally. I am Melba Pearson. I'm running to be the next state attorney for Miami-Dade County, Florida. Vote for me August 18th. Take good care.
God bless America. Land that I love. In the sun and God, who light from the mountain to the ocean, wide with God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America. My home, sweet
segregated South into 1,000 pieces and put them together in the image of God and democracy. We must say, wake up, America, wake up, for we cannot stop, and we will not and cannot be patient.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing the song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising victory is won.
Just give it all you got and not get weary. Be hopeful, be optimistic, and take the long, hard look. We had some difficulty. They will have some difficulty. They will have some setbacks, but you cannot give up. You cannot give in. You will make it. They will lead us.
Thank you, John Lewis. Thank you, John Lewis.
Worrell. 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 I've been walking with my face turned to the sun. Worrell. Weight on my shoulders, pulling in right line. Well, I got eyes in the back of my head, just in case I have to run. Do what I can when I can, while I can for my people. While the clouds roll back and the stars fill the night, that's why I'm gonna stand up with me. Together we are going to a brand new home. And so I gotta keep on keeping on. I can feel it in my bones. And I know I stand up, take my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new home. Far across the river, you hear freedom calling me to answer. Gonna keep on keeping on. I can feel it in my bones. I know to prepare a place for you. I know to prepare a place for you. I know to prepare a place for you. I know to prepare a place for you.
All right, all right. Hey, welcome to the Soapboxx podcast. I am your host, TJ Legacy. All our guests, you guys can put your cameras back on. We are live here at the Ready to Reform rally. I'm excited to be here. Just some housekeeping notes. This is the Soapboxx podcast. This is a little unconventional because of COVID-19 and because of there's a storm that happened to try to rain us out, but we're gonna make it do what it do. We're still gonna talk about reform. We have candidates and we have speakers here. So sit back, relax, and talk politics and get educated on some voter awareness. Just wanted to let you know, please like the Soapboxx page as we are streaming this from our page today. I do want to introduce my guest co-host, activist who resides in the Orlando area. His name is Miles Moran. What's going on, Miles? How you doing?
I'm good. My service is a little bad, so if I'm chopping up on y'all tonight, I apologize. I'm happy to be here, man. It's a great night. We definitely got to get this word out.
Absolutely, absolutely. Miles, if you could tell us real quick about the program that you have, and what you've been doing on the grassroots so everybody's familiar, and then we'll get right into our first speaker.
Yeah, so we're actually doing a actual grassroots organization. It's not a 501c3 or any affiliation with any group, but me and Marquise McKenzie have teamed up to conduct a bunch of volunteers and other people who come together to actually engage the community, and the name of the group is called Engage. So for the next week and up until the primary election day on August 18th, we'll be out in different neighborhoods, actually canvassing, going door knocking, setting up different tents and areas, and just letting people know about the candidates that are running, some of the platforms that they have, and making sure that people know that the early election is taking place now, early voting is taking place now, and we got an election that we need to turn out so we can change the face of the county and eventually the state.
I'm muted. There we go. Absolutely. So we're going to go right into it. Unfortunately, Attorney Natalie Jackson, she messaged me. She's going through, because of the storm, she's having some technical difficulty, but it's okay because I know this candidate. The candidate that's coming up next, it actually worked out perfectly this way because maybe it was just meant to be. But this candidate is endorsed by Attorney Natalie Jackson, who was the family attorney for the Trayvon Martin family. He was also endorsed by Ben Crump, civil rights attorney Ben Crump, who's been putting in work all throughout the country, fighting for Black and brown lives against this injustice that we are facing. I support Andrew Darling, not only because this man is a father, not only because of his military service and his background, but I firmly support Andrew Darling because Andrew Darling actually has a platform for reform. He's going to get more into that, but he's someone who serves in the community. He's grew up in the Oak Ridge, went to Oak Ridge High School, grew up in our Oak Ridge community. He's actually, as you saw in the commercial, he's actually represented peaceful protesters who were arrested pro bono. This is someone who has put in work into the community. This is someone who is not going to just play along and is not a part of the law enforcement establishment. This is someone that we need here in Orange County so that we can change things because it's a matter of life or death. So with all due respect, with all, with everything in my being, I want everybody to go out and vote for this candidate who I'm introducing. His name is candidate Andrew Darling for Orange County Sheriff. Andrew.
Thank you so much, TJ. Man, it's this whole politics thing is interesting, man. I mean, you get to get on panels with these incredible individuals. I mean, a lot of folks don't know, I actually worked with Melba back in 2017, one of my internships when I was in law school. I've known Rep Eskamani for since 2017-ish. I mean, state attorney Ayala, golly, man, we went back. We were at an NAACP dinner in 2017 or 2018 together. And then former Senator Dwight Bullard, I actually met him during the right after the primary in 2018 down in where were we? We were either here in Orlando or down in South Florida. I don't remember exactly where it was, but I know it was on a balcony where there was finger food. That's all I remember. And then Monique and I, we've been crossing paths every few days for the last feels like forever. So, thank you guys so much for allowing me to be part of this platform. It's incredibly important to me. I am oftentimes, I look at my resume and I'm like, okay, I'm doing some things in life right now. But then I talk to some of my friends and I'm like, I'm still just an Oak Ridge kid, right? Like I'm an Oak Ridge kid who grew up here, who's from here, who is so excited about what I get to do. And the only way I get to do that and get to have the opportunity to implement that change is by getting people out to vote. And this platform is incredibly important for that. The stuff that Miles and Marquise are doing is incredibly important to that. We are out there, every day, reaching out, talking to voters. I've had so many folks that I've never met who've been like, hey, so-and-so said they went to school with you. I voted for you. And it's such a humbling experience. I'm so incredibly excited. So let me tell you why the heck you should vote for me for Orange County Sheriff. So you are never going to get a career law enforcement officer to change the way the system is set up. You're just not. And I spent some time at the public defender's office. Sorry, Aramis. I spent some time at the public defender's office, had a blast there. As you mentioned, TJ, I did represent some folks for the peaceful protest. Listen, I'd love to take a lot more credit for that, but most of those cases were dismissed. I had a couple cases that were not pro bono that ended up getting dismissed as well, that were just incredibly important because I don't do that for the publicity, right? When I sent out that tweet, I think I had 6 Twitter followers on my law firm Twitter, and it got retweeted almost 800 times. So I'm going to say there was probably 30 or 40 folks that were out in Orange County, California, who may have got the hashtag wrong, but no, I mean, listen, so what I plan to do as the next Orange County Sheriff is bring actual policy change, not symbolism, not sitting down and talking to folks and then going about doing the same thing, actual policy change. So ending the school to prison pipeline, changing the way that we even implement our school resource officer program. So state law requires that we have them there. If we're stepping back, I don't think officers need to be there, but state law requires it, so they're going to be there. And if they're going to be there, they need to be part of the fabric of the school. They don't need to just be the occupying force in that school. They're going to have a different uniform. They're going to look like they belong in a professional setting. They're going to wear khaki pants. They're going to have on school colored polo shirts. It's going to say, SRO really large on it, school colors. I'm sure I can work with the school board or the principals to figure out some cool way to do that, right? That's not that big of a problem. These deputies are not going to be an extension of the Orange County Public Schools disciplinary program. They're just not. You are there to keep the peace, and you are there in the absolute worst case scenario that if one of our schools has a situation like that. But otherwise, you are there to build relationships. You are the first level of relationships with our young people out in our communities. You are going to be able to build those relationships, be part of the fabric of a school. And if somebody at the school, if the principal believes that there was an incident that is so serious that a young person deserves to have the police called on them, you need to call the sheriff's office and send an outside deputy, because our school resource officers cannot be the deputies that are arresting kids in school. In the worst case scenario, in those very, very rare instances where that does need to happen, it cannot be our school resource officers, because you're not going to be able to build trust, let alone keep trust, if you're the one that's arresting young people in schools. It's just not going to work. So on top of ending the school to prison pipeline, I have a policy where instead of having the default be arrest for misdemeanor offenses, the default is going to be non-arrest. And in the exception to that for misdemeanors is any domestic violence issue or any DUI. Those are going to lead to arrests. We do have to make sure that we're protecting victims. That is our first priority. But if you have somebody who, for example, is accused of a petty theft from a retailer, we'll just say Walmart, right? And that person stole whatever the amount is, it's under $750 now, that is a petty theft. That person should absolutely be trespassed from that Walmart. That person should absolutely still have to face the charges, but there's no reason for that person to go to jail for that. If you're stealing things from Walmart, or if you're accused of stealing things from a retail establishment, and it's under $750, the likelihood that you're going to be able to bond out is probably pretty low. The likelihood that even if you do bond out, you're going to still have resources left over to either hire your own attorney or make sure that you have adequate representation. I mean, these are just unlikely events, right? But you still should have to face those consequences. And hopefully there's a diversion program if you're a first-time offender, which I know now that there is diversion programs for a lot of different offenses. Thank you, State Attorney Ayala. There's a bunch of diversion programs. But the other thing that we need to do, and it's going to be the hardest thing that we're going to do is change the culture of policing, right? Because we're not going to do that with a career law enforcement officer. They're too entrenched. They are way too a part of the system. If you were hired into, promoted within, and then you became in charge of that system, you don't have the incentives to change it. So what does that look like? That means setting very, very clear standards on not just the use of force metrics, but going through and figuring out what things that we can do, what we can learn, and how we can improve so that we don't have to use force, right? We're going to go through and look at every different opportunity we have to change the use of force metrics. We're going to take a lot of time and reviewing when our sort of, like I said, not use of force, but what policies are in place right now that don't serve us any good. We need to work on hiring more mental health professionals, social workers, and addiction specialists. I've made the commitment that I'm going to hire 10, a combination of 10 of those before I hire 10 more deputies. We need to make sure that we are responding to 911 calls with the right tool. So if somebody is in mental health crisis, a deputy needs to go along for safety and for the peacekeeping part of it, but a deputy is probably not the most equipped to handle that situation. And I know several deputies, and they will tell you the same thing. They are law enforcement professionals. They are not mental health professionals. We ask our law enforcement officers to do a lot. Maybe we should start sending the right people to the right situations first. So that's part of it. I mean, accountability, transparency. I'm going to publish the stats that we have on a monthly basis. It may take me a little while to get it set up, but I'm going to publish the stats on the age, sex, race of individuals who are either arrested or receive some sort of ticket. I'm going to do that in conjunction with sort of what was the officer who issued that citation, the deputy who issued that citation, what was their makeup as well. And just to kind of wrap it up real quick, I mean, listen, we can talk about reform policies all day. We can talk about why they're the best candidates. But at the end of the day, like, the time is now. There is no better time, okay? We cannot wait 2 more years. We cannot wait 4 more years. We cannot let a career law enforcement officer sit in this office any longer and expect any change. We cannot do it. It's not going to happen. I have all of the experience in the world from my time in the military. I've been to combat twice. I've trained people as a drill sergeant in the United States Army to go from sitting on a couch to 9 weeks later being ready to go to combat, to go to actual war. There's no place in Orange County that's at war. I understand those decisions. I understand the scenarios that officers are sometimes put in, and we need to make sure that we're making the right decision because we don't get a second chance. And this election, we also do not get a second chance. The time is now, Orange County. We need to vote for reform, vote for Andrew Darling here in early voting, vote for me on August 18th when you show up to the polls. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time, and go vote.
All right. That was candidate Andrew Darling, everybody. Candidate Andrew Darling. We could do the round of applause and all that good stuff. Thank you so much, Andrew, for being here. Thank you for your service. Best of luck to you. Now, I have the honor and privilege to introduce a good brother of mine, Senator Dwight Bullard from the new Florida majority. Hopefully I said that right and he doesn't, because I always get it wrong. But from all the way from Miami, this is good brother Dwight Bullard, please.
Thank you, TJ, and shout out to the Beard Gang. You know, we're always in here representing you. 2 Miles, you're part of the Beard Gang as well. You know, even though you're still trying to get that robustness to it. Thank you so much, TJ, for having this platform and doing this today. You know, I just want to preface by saying, as Andrew pointed out, you have a dynamic group of individuals present here, and I've had a chance to know most of them and work with some of them as well in terms of the work that we've been trying to do. But I do want to give context in the sense that back in 2016, without knowing it, one of your panelists kind of created a ripple and a wave in this state of ours in terms of dynamic representation, in terms of her service to this community, and making legal reforms in this state a thing when it was unfortunately wildly unpopular. And she took a lot of criticism and bears the scars of some of the unnecessary negativity that came with some of the reform measures that she tried to put forward. But I want to thank State Attorney Aramis Ayala for really being at the forefront of what we're all here for and what we're all trying to do. And thanks for everyone who's kind of stepping into that space. I'm here for a purpose, and I understand why I'm here. I had the honor and pleasure of getting to know Melba Pearson over the last few years, primarily with her work with the ACLU of Florida. One thing I absolutely appreciate about Melba in our one of our earliest interactions was taking, and let's just be frank, ACLU has been traditionally kind of a very white space, and really giving it a level of pizzazz and panache. She put together a panel discussion lifting up Jay-Z's 444 album and finding the correlation between 444 and the criminal justice space. Then she did it again with Beyonce's Lemonade album. I say that to let folks know that that's the kind of creative energy and pizzazz that she brings forward to every space that she walks into. Not only is she bringing a level of energy, a great attitude, but more importantly, she's bringing a deeper understanding of where people are and where the system needs to go in order to correct some of the historical wrongs that have impacted Black communities, communities of color across this country, but especially in this state. The ACLU, along with the NAACP and the University of Miami, published what I like to call a water is wet report. And that was basically a report that showed that the criminal justice system had disproportionately locked up and incarcerated Black and brown people over a period of time. I say that's a water is wet report because we always known that, but the idea that people oftentimes need tangible evidence to point to structural inequities is something that I guess people need to satisfy their own concerns around whether or not the system is unjust. But in recognizing that the system is unjust, Melba's decided to step out there and throw herself into this fight to change, as Andrew pointed out, a very, very problematic system for Black and brown people in this country. We see what's happening across the country. We've seen what's happened in the wake of George Floyd. Recognizing that today is the 5th anniversary of the passing of Michael Brown, we understand that this is a time in which we need people who are level-headed, creative, and have enormous aptitude in terms of how to get this thing done. So Melba comes to this having worked in as an assistant state attorney, but also understanding the importance of getting out of that system and understanding that, as Andrew again pointed out when he talked about career law enforcement officers, that it just can't be people on the inside trying to tinker around the edges. You need to have stepped out, have a robust understanding of what needs to be done, and Melba brings that to the table. So in my work with the New Florida Majority, we have been honored in this past week to endorse her campaign, get behind her with 1,000% effort, and hopes that Miami-Dade and the 11th Judicial Circuit will elect somebody new. Because after 27 years of never having police officers held accountable, after watching citizens be wrongfully accused and wrongfully detained by a state attorney's office that has now most recently been found to have a corrupt slush fund that they've been hiding at a foundation space that people have been paying into to get lighter sentences. I'm putting that out there so folks understand that that's what happens when you have entrenched politicians over a 27, almost 30-year period, not doing what they're supposed to do and failing to do the things that they need to do. And so I'm so happy to introduce to some of you, but to many of you on this space, especially the Miami-Dade folks, someone I hope is going to be our next state attorney here in Miami-Dade County, Melba Pearson.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much, Senator Bullard, for that amazing introduction. I appreciate you, my brother, and I just love all the work that you've been doing, and I'm just so excited to be able to work together on all of that in the future. And my name is Melba Pearson. I'm running to be the next state attorney of Miami-Dade County, Florida. A little bit about me. I was a prosecutor here in Miami-Dade County in the office in which I seek for close to 16 years, and then also served as the deputy director of the ACLU of Florida for 3 years. Going back a little bit further, I'm a daughter of immigrants. My mother was from Trinidad and my father was from Jamaica. My mother was also a member of 1199, which was the Health and Hospital Workers Union in New York. So just to give you a little bit of background of my values, I grew up in a household that valued hard work, that valued integrity, but also my father was very clear to make sure that I understood the history of people of color going back before slavery, looking at Timbuktu and all the great work that was being done in many countries before colonization happened, right? So making sure I really had a full perspective on what people of color have been able to accomplish, as well as the struggles that have been faced in the many decades and years and centuries to follow. So going back to a little bit about my experience, I was a prosecutor handling everything from misdemeanors to double homicides. I have hugged mothers as they wept over the loss of their children to senseless violence. I have worked in the community to hear the concerns of the everyday people with regards to the criminal justice system and their perceptions and their concerns and feeling not being heard. So all of those things formed my experience, as well as being president of the National Black Prosecutors Association. I had the honor to serve as president for 2 terms, but what's really important about that is the fact that this was during the Obama administration. And during that time, we were really having these amazing discussions around criminal justice reform and how do we effectively police our communities without being oppressive, without, making a space for violence, and just looking at different ways that we can center keeping our community safe, but really looking and embracing to restorative justice techniques and rehabilitation and diversion courts and all of the things that address the root causes of why people commit crime. Because having been a prosecutor for close to 16 years, I have looked into the eyes of evil. And the vast majority of people are not evil. They are driven by addiction. They're driven by mental illness that they're trying so desperately to conquer. They're driven by a lack of opportunities or resources. So if we're able to connect people with the help they need, we will see safer communities. So that is part of the reason why I'm running. And then to talk a little bit more about my background, I was deputy director of the ACLU of Florida, which meant I was number 2 in one of the largest ACLU affiliates in the country, running a staff, creating budgets, creating priorities, and doing all of the things that are necessary to have a healthy and productive running organization and operation. And during my time at the ACLU, I also had the honor of working on the historic amendment, Amendment 4, which gave the voting rights back to people who have criminal convictions, right? And of course, we had a whole other fight afterwards with regards to, the court system and all of that. The governor and the legislature obviously was very displeased with the vote of 65% of Floridians, and we have had to fight in court ever since. But it was one of the greatest honors and privileges of my career to be with returning citizens as they were able to register to vote and lift their voices up and be heard again. So all of this work has really been centered on, number 1, the concept of justice and equal justice, making sure that justice is equal, equitable, accessible, and real to everyone in our community, not just those who have money, not just those who have power, not just those who have a badge, but every single person living in this county. So you may want to know, well, what are you going to do once you get in? Let me tell you a little bit about that. So first off, I intend to end the use of cash bail for non-violent offenses. We have seen too long how the cash bail system creates 2 systems of justice, one for the wealthy and one for the under-resourced. When we look at the Harvey Weinsteins of the world, the Jeffrey Epsteins, the R. Kellys, they were able to bond out rapidly, paying super high bonds, multiple hundreds of thousands of dollar bonds. But they got out and reoffended because they were a danger to our community. We need to shift the discussion from how much money is in your bank account to whether or not you pose a risk to our community. And that is what my bail reform plan intends to do. Secondly, I intend to end the use of direct file, which is the process by which children are taken out of the juvenile system and placed into the adult system for accountability. It has been made very clear by science and doctors and a number of studies that the human mind does not fully develop until the age of 25. So holding children accountable by adult standards is ludicrous and flies in the face of science, and also flies in the face of our own experiences, right? Like, we all have kids, nieces, nephews. We know that kids do silly things from time to time. We need to hold them accountable as children, not as adults. Thirdly, I will be creating a civil rights unit that will have prosecutors that are solely dedicated to working on police shootings and police misconduct cases. That's important because right now that's not the way it's happening. It's pretty much a volunteer assignment that you do on top of all of your other work. These cases are too important to have people, with competing interests and too much work, right? I want to have people where their entire work is dedicated to working on these cases, making sure that bad actors are being held accountable and that justice is being given to the families, as well as even the police officers who, if you didn't do anything wrong, there's no reason for you to be on desk duty for 5 years and more, because the way the current incumbent does things, it just kind of languishes and then is buried on a Friday afternoon news cycle, right? The public deserves to have a state attorney that's going to look them in the face and say, I'm filing charges because of this reason. I'm not filing charges because the evidence isn't there. You can't duck and cover. That is not transparency. And then the last part of what I want to do when I become state attorney is to make sure that there is full transparency in how these cases are being handled, all cases. As alluded to by Senator Bullard, there was a report called the Unequal Treatment Report that was issued by the ACLU in 2017. And it revealed that Black Miamians had up to 3 times worse outcomes than their white counterparts at every single stage of the criminal justice system. And if you're a Black Hispanic Miamian, you got almost up to 6 times worse outcomes. That is not justice. That is not equality. That is not equity. And that is not okay. So I intend to create and recreate that study, looking at more recent data to make sure that nothing else has been missed, and then make policy decisions driven by this data to make sure that we're doing everything we can to reduce racial inequalities in this county. Because listen, justice delayed is justice denied. And if one person misses getting justice, we all miss getting justice. So the key is we have to be involved, we have to be engaged, and the people of Miami are ready for a change. My opponent in her 27 years has never, ever filed charges against a police officer for a non-duty killing. Not one. And to give you perspective, from 2016 to 2019, there were 73 police shootings, both fatal and non-fatal. So it's not like there wasn't there was a lack of opportunity to be able to investigate these cases. There was a plethora of cases going on, right? And just for, again, I know I'm running low on time, but I will say this. Research Darren Rainey, research Jesus Menocal, research the Redlands, right? These are all cases where there was clear opportunity to file charges. There was enough evidence, but my opponent didn't have the political will or the desire to help the community by moving forward with charges in these cases. So listen, learn more about me at www.melba4miami.com. You can follow me on all socials at Melba for Miami, and that's Melba, FOR Miami.com. August 18th is around the corner. I'm so excited to stand with all these amazing candidates and work together in conjunction to make justice real for everyone. So thank you again, and thank you to Soapboxx for letting me have this, minute of your platform and chat with folks and make sure that folks know that we have history on the ballot on August 18th. Thanks a bunch.
All right, thanks, Melba. Hey, that was powerful. I love it. I love it. Love it. I know I'm gonna hopefully you get into office. I'm gonna be safe when I walk in or when I go down to Miami on hopefully on a vacation that is well needed. Thank you. Vote for Melba. Vote for Melba. Definitely. Miles, are you get my messages?
No, I'm looking now. Just seeing it now. All right.
All right.
So I'm good to go. Sorry, my service.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
Good to go now. Yeah. So, and then just for the upcoming next portion of speaking about this Ready for Reform rally, I get to introduce the next person who will be speaking. Somebody who in Central Florida particularly has been a very big driving force of making change from here to Tallahassee. Since I've started activism, I've seen her name, I've seen her work, I've seen her go from Planned Parenthood to different movements and different involvements in the city that I'm very happy that she's on this, because a lot of people who are doing activism don't actually see another side of it. And they don't get to see where you get to go after you're done protesting in the street and the next level you can take it to. So I'm happy to go ahead and introduce the representative for District 47, the amazing Miss Anna Eskamani, and go ahead and let her speak and get the chance to talk to you about this Ready for Reform rally.
Thank you so much, Miles, and thank you to TJ and the Soapboxx for having all of us today. I am thrilled to be joining y'all, and to our candidates who are just kicking so much butt this year. I am so proud to be with you today and rallying the energy around getting out the vote. It is so important that folks vote this August, and we already have vote by mail ballots coming in. We have early vote taking place, up till the 16th. You can go to any polling location within your county, within your circuit to go vote. And we need you to do it. So again, my name is Anna Eskamani. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm a proud working class daughter of immigrants, born and raised right here in Orlando, public school kid, K through 12, went to UCF. And candidly, I have been continuously just frustrated by the status quo and the sense of commitment that so many people have to mediocrity when we could be pushing for so much more. And I'm also talking to my fellow Democrats out there, where we tend to just lean towards, a Democrat that we recognize versus opening up our eyes to the systematic problems and oppression that we see in so many parts of society, but especially right now with a focus on the criminal legal system. You notice that I didn't say criminal justice system because there really is no justice. And when I was running for office, my first campaign, we already saw the mass incarceration taking place, the school to prison pipeline, and we went to Tallahassee committed to address these issues proactively, working alongside the Black Legislative Caucus in diving deeper into racial disparities, whether it's criminal legal system or it's healthcare or environmental justice. We recognize the problems that surround us and made a commitment to get to work. And as Senator Dwight Bullard knows all too well, getting things done in Tallahassee is hella hard because you're up against not just colleagues who want to be hard on crime or don't understand the benefits of these systematic changes. You're also up against a lot of money. And, so many of the systems that we talk about, especially those that engage in the criminal legal system, are fueled by money. And whether it's private prisons, which, by the way, both Democrats and Republicans take money from, or it's a bail system, or it's the militarization of our law enforcement, even the privatization within public state operated prisons, we see the role that money plays throughout this infrastructure. And we were proud to file and co-sponsor several bills to try to address many of the issues that we've already talked about today, including a repeal of mandatory minimums, those who don't know, mandatory minimums completely strip away the ability of judges to be judges. It gives way too much power to many of our prosecutors out there, some who are just starting their careers, and so might not necessarily realize the impact of some of the harsh sentencing that doesn't even reflect what the actual incident is. And repealing mandatory minimums would give that power back to judges to say, you know what, this nonviolent offense doesn't deserve years of prison time. It deserves an intervention to support this person who might be struggling with mental health or addiction or both, instead of going automatically to a prison sentence. We've also been proud to file alongside Senator Randolph-Bracy legislation to end the school to prison pipeline by setting a statutory limitation on the arrest of minors. I know that State Attorney Aramis Ayala is with us tonight, and Ayala knows this because she sees it in our circuit where kids get arrested for being kids. Of course, if there's a violent accusation, we have to look at the procedures around treating juveniles in those cases. But we had a 6-year-old Black girl arrested at Orlando Charter School, Miss Kaya Roll, and she was arrested for literally just being a kid, for having a tantrum. And she was arrested by an Orlando PD office, reserve officer who was an SRO, who fingerprinted this child, a 6-year-old Black girl. And I know that in schools that are white majority, that ain't happening. And so we filed legislation to essentially put a stop to that. You might be wondering, well, Rep. Eskamani, what happened to those bills? And the reality is that they don't pass. And they don't pass not because they don't get bipartisan support, because I want to be clear, there are Republicans and Democrats who care deeply about this issue. I have Republican friends who are attorneys, who see it, they get it, they care about these issues, and they would support these type of systematic changes. What we're up against are the Sheriff's Association statewide, the Chief Association statewide, and many prosecutors who just don't get it. Not the prosecutors you see here with us tonight, but prosecutors historically in our region, historically around the state, who don't want to see changes and prefer to keep things the way they are. And enough is enough, because we have to get changes both at a local level and changes statewide. And during our time in the streets advocating for Black Lives Matter during this uprising against racial injustice, there have been many moments where folks ask, what do I do after I protest? I want to keep protesting. I'm going to keep coming out, but what do I do, right? Where can change happen? And I know it's challenging to change the direction towards voting, because for far too long, voting is seen as part of the broken system. And I get that. We see Jim Crow laws still impacting the ability to vote today. We see Amendment 4 supported by tons of thousands, millions of people in Florida, overwhelmingly was approved for rights to be restored for our returning citizens. And yet it was stopped by my colleagues, and it was stopped by the governor signing an interference bill into law. So it can feel pretty disenchanting, right? To say you got to vote. But I hope what you realize with tonight's rally is that there are folks where your vote is worth it. Your vote is going to make a difference, and it's going to restore faith in democracy. And if you look at the work that we do in legislature, and that is work that you support, work that you would endorse, realize that you got candidates running at a local level who are going to be able to do even more than someone like me in my position, because the roles of a state attorney and the roles of a sheriff in your local government are monumental to changing these systems. So please get out to vote, get to know your candidates, vote in August, vote in November, and remember that when you're voting, you are creating an entire opportunity for a new system, one where everyone truly will be treated equally under the law. Thanks so much for having me, y'all.
All right. I believe Alton was having some technical issues, but I think I just let him in the room, so I think he's coming on. I know we got some heavy hitters coming on after him. I know we still have State Attorney Aramis Ayala, and of course we have candidate Monique Worrell. I have just let him in the chat, so let's see if he comes in. If not, I'll have State Attorney Aramis Ayala go ahead of him. I'll give 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. Should have been working, but okay. Anyway, listen. Oh, wait, did it work? Hold on 1 second. Oh, no, didn't. All right, let's go. So this next speaker needs no introduction. So I'm not going to list out all the accolades. I will just say this: as far as the soapbox, this is probably the person who is in the top 5, if not the top 3 people you guys keep asking me to have on the Soapboxx podcast. So hella high water. She is actually here on the Soapboxx podcast, making her her debut, the first ever Black state attorney in the state of Florida. It is an honor to have state attorney for the 9th Judicial Circuit, State Attorney Aramis Ayala, on the Soapboxx finally. So welcome.
What up, TJ? What's up, Miles? So we're gonna try and make it a rally. I don't know best we can, but like if we were live, I would be like ready, and y'all say for reform, ready for reform. But it just doesn't have the same, energy. It doesn't have it all. Bring it as best as I possibly can. I want to give a lot of kudos to the attorneys. The person who I hope to call Madam State Attorney. Every time I call her, she's like, Madam State Attorney. I'm like, Madam State Attorney. And this is this interesting dynamic. But I want to give kudos to all of the candidates right now, because this is a difficult and challenging election cycle. Any of us who have ever been elected before, we've never been trying to be elected in the midst of a pandemic, right? Where it's difficult to get resources, you got to be extra safe and all of that. But what I will say is that I'm so encouraged is because right now there is momentum, because there is an obvious need. Some of us, when we were running, we had to deal with trying to convince people that there was a need, trying to convince people that there was an injustice. But right now we have candidates who actually have proof by looking at dead Black bodies sitting in the middle of the street, by looking at people locked up in mass incarceration, and it being a uncomfortable but necessary and real conversation. So I am encouraged to know that they are the answer to this. As we talk about this, there's a couple things that I want to say and encourage people, because we hear this word reform, but too infrequently do we hear people understand what reform really means. And I want to ask you, as you're looking for a candidate for reform, to look at 3 things. And the first thing is, are they committed to the machine, or are they committed to the casualties in the machine? Because what we look at in the criminal justice system, it is nothing but a machine. Just going through. I have been a public defender for almost 10 years of my life. I've been a prosecutor for several years, and obviously now the state attorney. And when you look at it, I've said it over and over again, if you imagine a big manufacturing company, it is nothing but a machine. So historically, prosecutors have been committed to being the manager of that machine. I'm going to make the machine work well. I'm going to do this. I'm going to look over the machine. But what people like Monique are doing, they are not interested in the machine, but the casualties created by the machine. And when you look at the casualties, you look at the implicit bias that goes on, you look at the other issues that are created from the wrongful convictions, the executions that are wrongful, all of the things that we happen, you need someone who is committed to the casualties of the machine. And that is the first thing to look at in a reform candidate. Number 2, are they committed to justice, or are they committed to the law? See, if you hear people talking about, oh, follow the law, obey the law, those are dog whistles for get in line. And the truth is, we have to have people who are sheriffs, people who are prosecutors, people who are in positions to make change, understanding that we must be committed to justice at all costs. So while we think about the concept of, follow the law, yes, I am committed to following the law, but I understand far too big and I've had too many experiences to understand that the law ain't always just. There are folks who wouldn't be married. There are people who would still be in cotton fields. There are people who wouldn't do any of the things that they are able to do now if we just follow the law. So let's get away from that dog whistle and acknowledge the fact that we need a state attorney, we need a sheriff, we need people who are interested in justice and not to repeat that. The third thing is, are they committed to pushing past the obstacles and the attacks that are coming? Yeah, Dwight said it earlier. I've been hit. And quite frankly, I've been down, but it's all about, can you get back up? Do you surround yourself around people who are going to take advantage of you being down and capitalize on it? Or are they going to be what Miss Worrell was to me, the person that say, get up, I still believe, you got this, I'm with you, what do you need? That's what we need, are people who understand that humanity matters no matter what title you have, whether you were on the street and you have this long history of crime, or whether you have all these accolades and letters after your name. Are you committed committed to pushing past the attacks and understand that the attacks aren't about you. It is about what you stand for. So I am encouraged and I'm excited to introduce the person who I call my friend, a person I call my sister, and I pray to God that I'm able to call my state attorney, because she is a person who is running for the people, not running for the office. She is committed to a level of humanity that I have never seen. She encourages me. When she worked in my office, she made me push harder, and that is exactly what we need. You don't need people being stop signs. You need people being your momentum and pushing you. So I am excited that if she was able to push me, I look forward to her pushing this community in a higher direction. So I am proud to introduce who I expect to call the next state attorney, who will bring a fresh perspective on justice, Monique Worrell.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. My God, what an introduction. Listen, this is just an amazing place, one that I never expected to be. If you asked me 2 years ago if I would run for any political office, I would have told you that you were crazy. If you told me that I would run for state attorney, I would have told you that you had the wrong person. I give thanks to the Honorable Aramis Ayala for showing me the importance of a reform-minded individual being in the seat of the state attorney. And because of her, I stand on her shoulders. Without her having gone ahead of me, I would never have had the motivation or even the belief to see it for myself and to see it for our community. And she was an instrumental part in that, and I'm thankful to her for that. Melba talked earlier about all the things that we're gonna do. So I'll briefly go back through it all. We're gonna treat kids like kids and stop calling them adults, because calling a child an adult for the purpose of prosecution does not make it true. We are going to treat addicts like addicts instead of criminals, because when you send a drug addict to prison, they come back home still an addict. So instead of sending them to prison, we're going to connect them to community resources that can help them with their addiction. We're going to recognize the fact that the war on drugs was failed in that it did not stop the distribution of narcotics in the community. It did not stop the addiction to narcotics in the community. All it did was incarcerate mostly Black and brown bodies for decades and decades and decades. Now, fast forward to such a time as this, we have people who are not addicted to crack, but they're addicted to meth. And we are calling it a public health crisis, right? So in the 80s, it was a war on drugs. Now it's a public health crisis. I submit that it's always been a public health crisis, and we cannot treat addiction with incarceration. So as state attorney, I am going to try to keep as many people out of the system for drug-related offenses as possible. An overwhelming majority of the individuals who are currently incarcerated in our system are there for drug and property crimes, not violent offenses. Now, people will say, oh, she just wants to let everyone out into the streets. I have been referred to as Aramis on steroids, and I love it because the movement has given me permission to do and say things that Aramis could not do and say. As she mentioned, for such a time as this is a time where people understand and are pushing towards the reforms in a way that they never understood back when she was running. So I proudly wear the badge of Aramis on steroids, because when I am elected, we are going to bring the change and the reform that is needed to actually make our criminal legal system a criminal justice system. I have received all sorts of criticism, a lot of heated criticism lately too, since I've had some commercials and things out. The first criticism is that, I have a lot of outside money coming in. And I think that's interesting because a lot of the organizations who've endorsed me and are actually putting money into my campaign are right here. They're local organizations. But what's important to understand about this is that they're not upset because of the money, because that's the way our system is set up. Our system is set up so that people who believe in a candidate can put money into their campaign to push them forward. The reason that they're upset is because they are counting on you to stay home. And by putting out these commercials and by doing the things that we're doing, we are inspiring and motivating you to come out and vote, and they don't want that. They don't want you to vote. They want you to stay home so that the election can be won by the establishment in the way that it has been every single time. So if that's not motivation enough for you to get up and get out and vote, I don't know what else is. You have the candidates, you have the time, because of the pandemic, we're all sitting at home watching our screens. You have to get out and vote like our lives depend on it, because they do. If we do not vote, particularly in my race, and I don't mean to seem so self-centered by to say that my race is the most important one, because I know that Andrew thinks his race is the most important one too. But what I'll tell you is both of our races are essential to what it is that we've all been out protesting for the last several months. And that is justice in the Black and Brown community. Now, one of the things that I've been accused of lately is being a racist, right? And people have said that I'm racist because I'm only out here for Black and Brown people. Well, the reality is that I'm here for all people, but in order for me to be here for all people, I have to protect those who historically have not been protected, those who have been marginalized, those who have been abused, those who have not been treated fairly by the system. Then we can have a system that is just and fair for all people. And I know that most people know that, and the individuals who are calling me racist are just upset because I am bringing to light the thing that is clear for most people to see. But our criminal justice system has historically perpetuated slavery. 400 years ago, it was slavery, then it was Jim Crow, then it was redlining, and now it's mass incarceration. You don't believe me? Let's look at numbers. I was a law professor. Let's look at the data and the research. African Americans make up 19% of the Central Florida community. How much of the prison population in Florida do they make up? Anyone? Takers? Anyone? More than 50%. More than 50%. Thank you, Mr. Darling. Yes, more than 50%. That is overrepresentation, not because African Americans commit more crime, but because they are over-policed, because they are punished more harshly, and because they are punished more often. Don't take my word for it. Research it. Google it. We have the information age. The information is right at your fingertips. You don't have to take my word for it. These are the injustices that I am running to correct. And my opponents hate it because they know that they have contributed to these injustices for their entire career, each and every one of them. And you cannot be the problem and also the solution. I have been a criminal justice reform advocate for 20 years. For 20 years, I have been fighting to change the system. And that is why you can trust me to continue to do that in the role of the state attorney. Another thing people have said, well, you don't care about victims. You only care about defendants. Another false narrative. The reality is there is such a great intersectionality between who is a defendant and who is a victim. One is not righteous and the other one always evil. The two overlap. I have mourned with families as they have lost their loved ones to mass incarceration, and I have also stood with victims who have been frustrated by a system that's more focused on vengeance than it is on restoration. So yes, of course I care about victims, and of course I want justice for victims, but I understand that justice for victims does not always mean incarceration for a defendant. I can hear in my mind one of my opponents standing up right now and saying, people who commit sex crimes, they need to be incarcerated. Yes, of course. No one said that they don't. That is just, what did we call it? The study that water is wet. I think Mr. Bullard, Senator Bullard said earlier.
It's the study that water is wet. I don't need to say that because that goes without saying. People who kill people need to be incarcerated. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the individual who's addicted to drugs. I'm talking about the individual who's homeless, who's harassed for sleeping on the street. I'm talking about the child who has a behavioral issue and is incarcerated because of that issue. Those are the people who I'm talking about. And in order for us to get something different, we have to do something different. And if you continue to listen to people who have been doing it the same way their entire career, then the only thing that you're going to get is people who are doing it the same way. So I'm sure I've surpassed my 10 minutes. And TJ, I thank you for having me on the soapbox. Listen, y'all, get out there and vote because it's real. It is real in these streets. And I'm not out here for fun. I'm not out here for myself. I could have stayed at home and kept a nice low profile job where I didn't have to be called names and I didn't have to get threats and I could have done that, but I care too much about reform. And when the Honorable Aramis Ayala said she wasn't coming back to do it again, I knew that we had too much to lose. There was too much at stake. And that if someone didn't step in and take the wheel, that we were never going to have another real opportunity at reform anytime in the near future. So please don't make her work in vain. Don't make my work in vain. Get out here and vote. I was out at the polls today and it started raining, but you know what? If there was a concert, y'all would be out in the rain for that concert. If it was Black Friday and they had a PlayStation on sale, you'd be out there. If those Jordans went out, you'd be out there. Get to the polls and vote. We cannot afford to allow this election to go on without our voices being heard. There are people who are waiting for you to stay home and just let it go. Do not let it go. Our lives depend on it. Our children's lives depend on it. There's too much on the line and there's too much at stake. You must get out and vote.
For Monique Worrell, that is.
Yes. Monique, thank you for your comments. Yes, please go out and vote. I know this is a bit unconventional. We're doing a rally virtually because of the situation and we were rained out, but we still have amazing candidates, amazing platforms. Thank you, State Attorney Aramis Ayala and Monique for candidate for State Attorney Monique Worrell for speaking and being here. But as we said, the great thing about having a virtual rally is that we have our candidates that are all out there on the field all the time. So we missed Alton before, but he was on the field because he was having some technical issues and he was out there with the community. But he's back, he's here. So this good brother I've heard a lot about, and I know Monique talked about being a representative of all people, and this is what Alton, what I've researched, this is what he's about. He's about being representing all people. So I'm very interested to hear what this brother has to say. Ladies and gentlemen, Alton Edmond for Brevard County Sheriff.
Hello. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate you. I do apologize. I'm out in Palm Bay, and if anyone knows where Palm Bay is, basically out there in the woods in the country of Brevard County. And so the connection was a little bit difficult, but I'm glad that we were able to connect. My platform is a very simple one. It's a 3-point platform. As the new sheriff of Brevard County, my goal is to create a community policing model that accentuates accountability, and that is internal and external accountability. It's important to not only be accountable to the officers under my command that need to be taken care of, that whose mental health, whose home situation, whose pay affects the way that they police and do their jobs every day, but accountability also to the citizens that they're supposed to protect. My job is to make sure that, unlike the current sheriff, when officers do things that put the community at risk, that there are consequences, and that people, the taxpayers, the people that pay their salaries, are protected. The current sheriff doesn't want body cams on the officers. I push wholeheartedly for body cams. And here's the reason why. He says our officers are doing a great job. And so there's no need for body cams. Well, I tell you this, if they have body cams and they're doing a great job, then those cameras would showcase their great work. And on the other hand, when there are situations where the community is put at risk, those body cams would make sure and help to gather evidence for those situations in which people in the community need help and need that accountability. And it is wanting, and in a situation where you have an officer versus a private citizen, that's often a place of disadvantage for most citizens, unfortunately. The second prong of my platform is civility. And so many of you may not know, because I think this broadcast is primarily in Orange County, but the sheriff for Brevard has shows on the Brevard County website as well as YouTube, where he makes a fool of private citizens in an effort to bully and harass them. The problem with that, as it comes to reform over the outdated law and order model, is that we want to build a partnership and relationship with people in the community. And so ostracizing and alienating certain communities while partnering with other communities is a major issue. And so I am 100% behind State Attorney Worrell, because I'm going to go ahead and speak it into existence. That's what I'm saying. But when it comes to, yeah, I like that thumbs up. When it comes to civility, it's very important that we do what we can to restore the people that have served their debt to society, and restore them back to the community. Because at the end of the day, every citizen, we want to make sure that they're productive citizens after they've repaid their debts. And when you have a sheriff that's spinning their faces on a wheel called wheel of felon or wheel of fugitive, then that's not a situation where people are going to be able to be restored to society when you're sending it out to thousands of people all over the world. When you have a sheriff that's spending $500,000 in taxpayer money on cooking shows, where he's dressing up in a sheriff outfit to cook and have nothing to do with law enforcement, that's an issue. And that comes under that civil. When we do the job, it's important that we make good, sensible decisions as it relates to how we spend the taxpayer citizens' money, and that we're civil to the people that we have to return to society. And finally, transparency is a major issue for me. Our sheriff is in charge of $140 million, and there's no accountability and no transparency for it. And so when you look at that budget, you can't find it on the website. You have to do a public records request for it. And he overcharges the citizens of Brevard to get the records of his finances. And so I made my own records request, and I was charged $236 just to get the budget of the sheriff in my county. And of that $236, he charged me $81 an hour for 2 hours of work for the records worker. Now, when you think about what people get paid at the Brevard County Sheriff's Office or any sheriff's office, that doesn't even make sense, because most of the deputies don't even make $81 an hour. If you put together the sheriff's own salary of $162,000, he's not even making $81 an hour. But that's what tax-paying citizens are charged in order to request records, because instead of being transparent with the budget, he would opt to hide what he's doing with that money, taxpayer money from the citizen. And so when we talk about what needs to change, we need to create a law enforcement agency that works with the community in an effort to make sure that taxpayers are represented, that taxpayers are protected, and that everyone has an opportunity for equal justice starting from the ground floor up. I appreciate the time, TJ. Thank you so much.
Hey, thank you. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, everybody, you guys can unmute yourselves. We're all on show your pictures and everything. Listen, guys, there it is. Thank you to our candidates. Thank you to my co-host, Miles. Thank you for hopping on and being my guest co-host. I appreciate you. And the things that you're doing in this community, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it, brother.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's simple. You know, on the Soapboxx, we've used this platform to try to increase voter education. We use the platform to interview candidates. No, I didn't waste time in Orange County interviewing or having a forum with all the other candidates, because I'm not that type of guy. That's not the type of journalism I do. I did my due diligence. I watched all the debates. It's not close. Vote for Andrew Darling. Vote for Monique.
There were a lot of debates.
Yeah, there were a lot. So there's and let me say this: kudos to everyone in the community. There's been more voter education done this election cycle than it would have done if we weren't in a pandemic, because you wouldn't have had that many eyes or that many people show up to a lot of these different forums that would have probably had 50 or less than 100 people show up anyway. So right now is about personal responsibility and accountability, and that goes to you, the voter. It's time for you to go out. It's time for you to go vote. Tell your friends, your mother, your everybody, because what I don't want to see happen is there for to be another national hashtag in any of these counties, any of these districts, and the candidates who could have prevented something like that from happening, we didn't go out and support and vote. So make sure you follow them on their social media. Make sure you you're on their website. If you guys are still taking donations, right? You guys still like money?
Up until the 13th, yes.
Up until the 13th. Make sure you guys are donating. State Attorney Aramis Ayala, thank you so much for being here as well. Hopefully you will come back. My brother Dwight Bullard, you already know, all good. Thank you everybody for joining the Soapboxx podcast. And let me see if I do this. I usually do this right for everybody. For
August 18th.
Yes, voting August 18th. Go vote. Early voting now. Any other last housekeeping? Or are we good to go?
You can early vote until August the 16th, which is next week Sunday, and then election day is August the 18th. So you have 1 week to early vote from 9 to 7. All right. So if you don't have time, anywhere between 9 a.m. and 7 p.m. you can go vote. Yes. And then election day is August the 18th. Don't wait till election day and then be like, oh, the line's too long. You have 1 week to early vote.
Absolutely.
Please go vote.
Yes, and Monique already put y'all on blast because she said if it was Jordans and stuff, like I gotta go replay that. Like y'all,
somebody's gonna be mad.
And think about this momentum too.
Yes.
When I'm elected, when Monique's elected, we can go next door to Brevard County and we can knock doors as the next sheriff and state attorney for Alton. Like he has a general election in November. Like that momentum is very, very real. And we're starting that here in Orange County.
That's right. Dwight, you have something to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to stress that voter suppression is real. And so for folks that hesitate, as Monique pointed out, to go and early vote, please don't wait to the last minute, because what will end up happening is your polling location may change at the last minute. You know, the county may move to do something, you know, as it relates to the pandemic. You can't trust the people up in Tallahassee, with the exception of Anna and a few others. But the current governor is out of pocket when it comes to protecting elections. So I just want to stress to folks that early voting means that you can go to any one of those locations and vote regardless of your precinct. If you wait until election day and you're used to going to elementary school X and all of a sudden they switched it up on you because they didn't notify you on time, you know, that's one of those things that we view as suppression. But it makes people throw their hands up and say, oh, well, I guess it wasn't meant to be. And what I'm saying for you all with early voting is go to that location. You know, if you're in one part of the county where you live or work versus where you vote, you can go to that location and it's anyone can vote at any early voting site, regardless of precinct. And that's why it's important to get out there.
And you can also drop off your vote by mail ballots at early voting sites.
Yes.
True. State Attorney Aramis, you have any final parting words?
Go win, go vote.
Go win, go vote. I like it. All right. For candidate Andrew Darling, for candidate Monique Worrell, for candidate Alton Edmonds, for State Attorney Aramis Ayala, for activist Miles Moran, and for Senator Dwight Bullard, I am TJ Legacy Cole. This is the Soapboxx Podcast. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. Go vote, please. Go vote right now. Vote. All right.